We're starting to see a lot more restaurants adopt QR codes as an alternative to the traditional tablet that you might find at an Olive Garden or Chili's, right? The Ziosk or Presto tablets. I'm talking about the tablets that are on each table on a restaurant. Okay. Now, Tabby launched their system back in 2019. It was still a little early, and we're starting to see more and more companies and restaurants adopt QR codes because of the push to have contactless payments. We're really do anything we can to get more guests back into the restaurants and continue that business. So now you see Ziosk and Presto both have QR code alternatives to their tablets as well. And it's an interesting shift because we're seeing that maintaining tablets in restaurants provides a lot of headache, a lot of extra costs. And so we're going to dive into a little bit of that today, but want to talk about some of the similarities. As I talk about Ziosk and Presto here, I'm talking about the tablets that they offer, not the QR code system, of course. The QR code system is virtually the same. So um, self-checkout capability. This is really important. It's important that when you have a QR code solution, it's not on a receipt or it doesn't require a server code or a setup or enter a customer credit card in first in order to order, or that any of that that way. If the server places the order in the point of sale, or if the order is placed through the QR code, it needs to be truly self-checkout, meaning through and through they can do it either way and leave. That's how Ziosk and Presto have delivered so much value to Chili's and Olive Garden, is the ability to turn tables, and adding any steps or barriers like many mobile applications and other systems out there is just really not a value add to the restaurants. Okay. Capturing customer surveys. You'll see Google has maybe 400 to 1,000 surveys at a restaurant. Yeah, you can hop in an Uber with your Uber driver who's maybe driven for a year and he has over 3,000 reviews, right? Why is that? Simply because it's just one click. After you pay, one click. All of these systems capture a lot of reviews, a lot more feedback in your restaurant. You can start to see what's going on, what trends, what do people like, what food people like, don't like, which staff or managers are running the restaurant effectively. All sorts of things can be learned by capturing that feedback from your customers. Marketing signups, again, uh, you're looking at easy ways to enter in information on mobile device or tablet, capture that feedback. And of course, servers see an increased tip because they're able to help an extra 6 to 7 guests per night. They're able to turn those tables about 10 minutes faster per guest. That means in the same 4-hour shift, they serve a lot more guests, make a lot more tips. Now, let's talk about some of the differences. There's no hardware, right? Now, Ziosk and Presto have found ways to essentially soften the blow of the hardware costs on restaurants, so they can sell their applications or their games on the tablets. However, someone has to pay for the hardware, so the guests end up paying for that. You'll find a few restaurants with disputed checks, etc. The hardware also needs to be refreshed every 3 years, and it needs to be maintained. Okay, network. You'll need to have a solid PCI compliant network to be able to host these on, process the payments on, keep them secure. You'll also run into problems in certain restaurants. You'll find metal structures or stone walls in certain parts of the restaurants that block the Wi-Fi signal. Servers are constantly going to those tablets and re-entering the credentials for the table and getting the customer set up to pay their check. So it becomes a babysitting game with a lot of these tablets many times in certain areas of the restaurant due to the network. Installation, again, our system that Tabby offers is strictly software. That means it can be done remotely and it can be done in 5 minutes. Ziosk, you're going to have to do, of course, a little bit more setup, set up the charging stations, etc., and then deal with all that. So when it comes to warranty and maintenance, this is something that's interesting too. You'll see frequently companies like Ziosk or Presto, they won't even sell to restaurants that maybe have less than 5 to 20 restaurant locations, simply because they want to make sure that that restaurant has a solid IT team that can manage all of the warranty questions, or is it a break issue? What happened to the tablet to make it not work, right? They break, it's hardware. That's just the nature of how hardware works. Tabby doesn't have hardware. The hardware works with the customer's their cell phone, their smartphone, and therefore you don't have a lot of these headaches. And then, of course, there's no electricity costs for the customers. There's no security costs or updates. You don't have to change it, let's say, when you get a new credit card processing like EMV or any kind of hardware there. And of course, last but not least, it's completely zero touch. That means it's not contactless payment like you have NFC on a tablet itself, uh, because you still have to touch the tablet to get to the point of payment. It doesn't really help, right? So having it on a QR code, that customer just touches their smartphone. They don't have to touch the QR code. They can do everything straight from their smartphone. So in a wrap, that's the differences between QR codes and tablets. We're starting to see a big change in evolution and adoption of QR codes simply because the fact that it's a lot less headache with the same results, a lot less cost for the restaurants, and better experience overall for your guests. Thanks.